Look, we need to talk. It is almost midnight. I am sitting here with my third cup of black coffee, and I am looking at the economic and geopolitical reality of May 2026. Let us be completely honest with each other for a second, because nobody else on your social media feed will tell you the truth. You are stressed out, you are watching the cost of living rise. Global stability is fracturing right before our eyes, and the dream of building a real financial cushion feels like a total joke. Oh shit, I get it. Every single day. You see these suited financial gurus and establishment politicians on television talking about macroeconomic victories, temporary ceasefire agreements, and minor trade deals, making it sound like everything is perfectly under control. Then you look at the actual data and realize that two separate nuclear sites in the Middle East have experienced massive fires or explosions within the past 24 hours alone. In Abu Dhabi, a critical nuclear facility was hit by a drone strike, resulting in an active fire inside an electrical generator just outside the inner perimeter. Over in Israel, a massive mushroom cloud was captured near an airbase, which authorities are claiming was just a pre-planned, controlled civilian detonation, despite having zero prior notification to the public. It is a total circus, and it is designed to keep you confused, distracted, broke, and desperate. Here's the deal. Most of those talking heads are completely full of garbage, and they are playing an incredibly dangerous game with your financial future. I am not here to lecture you, because I am not a Wall Street analyst or a trust fund baby who started life with $1 million safety net. I am just a guy who was stuck in that exact same loop a few years ago, desperately trying to find a clear path to financial freedom amidst global chaos. Let me tell you about my own stupidity, because I made every single textbook mistake in the book. Back when I first started trying to invest, I thought the only way to get ahead was to follow the mainstream headlines and chase short-term momentum. I took my tiny savings money that I had worked 60 hours a week to earn, and I threw it directly into highly volatile options and speculative assets. Because some corporate news outlet suggested a massive breakthrough was coming, I woke up at 4 in the morning, staring at my phone with a racing heart, watching lines go up and down, feeling like an absolute genius when I made a few $100s, and feeling like vomiting when the reality of the market turned against me. One morning, I woke up, opened my account, and realized I had wiped out thousands of dollars in a matter of minutes, because the political narrative changed overnight. It was money that represented months of hard work completely gone. Evaporated into thin air because I was chasing a quick fix based on media narratives. That was my turning point, the moment I realized that trying to build a future based on mainstream media hype and political distractions was a guaranteed way to stay poor forever. I had to completely tear down my mindset and rebuild it from scratch. I started ignoring the noise, stopped looking for the surface-level headlines, and actually focused on understanding how real wealth is built and protected over time. And guess what? It worked. I managed to grind my way from absolute zero to over $120,000 in net worth, not by hitting a lucky lottery ticket or betting on military conflicts, but by becoming incredibly disciplined, boring, and consistent. That is why I call myself your wealth partner, because I am right here in the trenches with you, sharing the exact data that took me out of that stressful loop. So let us drop the nonsense and look at what is actually happening in the world right now. The current political leadership is operating on a classic distraction playbook, attempting to spin a new narrative of conflict 90 miles from our shores in Cuba to mask the severe lack of progress in the Middle East and the domestic economic pressure points. We are seeing reports of drone acquisitions and hypothetical military threats being pushed heavily by specific political factions right in time for the upcoming midterm elections, while actual critical energy and infrastructure news gets completely buried. Meanwhile, the structural economic data is showing that producer prices are high. International trade negotiations with major counterparts like China are resulting in vague aggregate purchase agreements rather than lockdown structural deals. And domestic consumers are still heavily penalized by high costs at the kitchen table. When leadership tells you that retail gas prices will only come down after an entire international maritime strait is completely sorted out through prolonged diplomacy or escalating kinetic warfare, you know the economic game is being played with massive leverage. But here's the anti-consensus truth that the bears do not want to hear. Even though the geopolitical landscape looks incredibly crazy, and even though establishing an accurate media diet reveals massive institutional blind spots, trying to short this market or sitting entirely in cash waiting for an absolute global collapse is a fool's errand. The market makers absolutely love volatility, and they love watching retail investors panic on both sides of the trade. If you are sitting completely on the sidelines with all your capital in a standard checking account, inflation and sticky economic data are silently eating away your purchasing power at a staggering rate every single day. Look at the structural shift happening under the surface of the market. While specific political regimes are focusing on investigations of past elections and trading rhetorical jabs over nuclear enforcement parameters, the corporate world is heavily prioritizing capital expenditures over traditional stock buybacks. This means that true wealth generation in 2026 relies entirely on finding the businesses that possess massive fundamental strength, high free cash flow, and the structural capacity to navigate a high interest rate, high energy cost environment. So how do we actually win in this environment without losing our minds or erasing our life savings? We do it by becoming aggressively boring and implementing a bulletproof portfolio strategy that does not rely on guessing the outcome of the next global conflict. Let us talk concrete numbers and real strategy. If you want to actually build sustainable wealth today, you need to structure your portfolio like a literal fortress. My personal philosophy and what worked for me to cross that $120,000 milestone is built on a very specific, unbreakable allocation framework. Think about allocating 70% of your long-term investment capital into a broad market index fund like VUO, which tracks the S&P 500. Why VU? Because it gives you a piece of the 500 largest, most consistently profitable corporations in the United States. When the dominant giants of global business make money, you make money. And you do not have to guess which specific sector or international trade route is going to be disrupted next, because VO automatically filters the ultimate structural winners for you. Next, you allocate 20% into a high-quality dividend growth fund like SHD. SHD is your absolute secret weapon during periods of international instability, fluctuating energy costs, and macro volatility. It focuses exclusively on fundamentally sound companies with massive balance sheets, steady consumer demand, and a long history of increasing their cash dividend payouts year after year. When the broader market goes sideways or takes a painful hit due to sudden geopolitical escalation, those dividend checks keep rolling directly into your account, giving you cold, hard cash that you can automatically reinvest to buy more shares. At a massive historical discount, it is the ultimate automated compound interest engine. Finally, you take the remaining 10% and put it into a growth-focused fund like VUG, or use it to take highly calculated, deeply researched tactical positions in individual equities or specific infrastructure plays that you have thoroughly vetted. This 10% is your tactical allocation, your way to capture alpha and explosive market movements without ever putting your core financial foundation or your retirement safety net at risk. If your individual tactical positions take a sudden hit due to a shift in government policy or an unexpected trade restriction, your core foundation of VO and SAG remains completely intact, collecting yield and compounding over time. Look, this strategy sounds simple because it is simple, but do not confuse simplicity with a lack of sophistication. The entire Wall Street financial industry wants you to believe that investing is an arcane, highly complex science, so they can charge you exorbitant management fees to consistently underperform a basic market index. The real challenge is not understanding the basic math. The real challenge is mastering your own behavior, your patience, and your emotional stability when the world headlines turn red. The absolute biggest edge you have as a young investor in 2026 is not some secret high-frequency trading algorithm or an insider political connection. It is your time horizon and your willingness to live below your means. Living below your means is the ultimate cheat code for generational wealth generation. We live in a hyper-consumerist culture that is completely obsessed with looking wealthy and displaying high status. People are taking out massive high-interest debt to finance luxury vehicles they cannot afford, buying designer clothing on credit apps, and blowing thousands of dollars every single month just to post a short clip on social media to impress total strangers. It is a massive, soul-crushing trap, and they are trading their literal lifetime financial freedom for a temporary, fleeting illusion of social validation. If you want to get truly rich, you have to be completely willing to look broke to people who are actually broke, but pretending to be rich. You need to look at every single dollar you earn not just as a piece of paper to be exchanged for immediate consumer gratification, but as a tiny worker that can be deployed into the market to go out and harvest more dollars for you. When you cut out the wasteful spending, ignore the overhyped political propaganda, and automate your investments so that a fixed percentage of your income goes straight into your portfolio every single month, you are playing the financial game on veteran mode. That is what we call automated dollar cost averaging. You do not try to perfectly time the market top based on who is speaking on the news. You do not try to guess if tomorrow is going to be a red day or a green day based on raw anxiety. If the market goes up, the total net worth of your portfolio expands. If the market drops significantly due to sudden defense escalations or trade tensions, you celebrate because your automated investment just picked up more shares of outstanding global companies at a massive discount. You win either way. It takes away all the late-night stress, all the morning anxiety, and all the emotional mistakes that consistently wipe out 90% of retail investors. Look at the greatest investors in human history. The individuals who survive multiple brutal market cycles and geopolitical crises over decades. They do not day trade highly leveraged options, they do not read short-term news tickers frantically, and they certainly do not panic sell their core assets when a new conflict makes the evening news. They understand the long-term structural trajectory of human innovation, infrastructure expansion, and global corporate profitability. When the broader market gets deeply fearful, when the headlines are screaming about impending conflict, international blockades, and economic instability, That is exactly when the most massive wealth transfers in human history take place. The people who panic and liquidate their index funds at a lower level are handing their future wealth directly to the disciplined, calm investors who have the stomach to hold through the consolidation and keep accumulating. I want you to really process this, because this is the core DNA of everything we build together. Wealth is not built by being the smartest or loudest person in the room. It is built by being the most disciplined and patient person in the room. Stop checking your brokerage account balance every 5 minutes. Stop listening to the hyperventilating talking heads on the corporate news who profit exclusively off your panic, your fear, and your clicks. Focus on building an accurate, data-driven media diet. Increase your primary career income. Keep your fundamental living expenses incredibly low. Take tactical profits when your individual positions hit overbought extremes, and aggressively feed the machine that is your core investment portfolio. The current global environment might look incredibly intimidating with its narrow market breadth, soaring regional tensions, and political grandstanding, but it is also a massive, unprecedented opportunity for our generation to build real long-term financial leverage. While everyone else is complaining, panicking over a single headline, or chasing highly leveraged speculative bubbles at the absolute peak of a news cycle, you and I are going to sit back, stay incredibly calm, and execute a proven allocation strategy day after day, month after month, and year after year. That is how I cross my milestone. And that is exactly how you are going to blast past your own financial goals. We are in this for the long haul, we are playing the long game, and we are going to win together. The environment is indeed very complex, but we stay steady. All right, my black coffee is completely empty, and the sun is going to come up in a few hours. Keep your head clear, stay incredibly disciplined, analyze the underlying facts objectively, and let us go secure the financial future we actually deserve. I will see you in the next video.